Welcome back to the Skin Scoop, Aestheticians Unplugged. I'm your host, Lexis.
I'm your host, Madison.
And today we have a beautiful, lovely, smart individual, and we are so excited for you to meet her. We have Kristine here, also known as, is it Well with Kristine on Instagram? Perfect. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi. Wow, gas me up before we start. I'm so excited to be here. I love the energy here too, because these two lovely ladies, as you all know, because you've been listening forever, they're amazing. And if you're not, welcome back and subscribe today. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here. I am excited about this conversation about how like skin and the nervous system kind of intertwine. I've been on my own little skin journey with rosacea, so I'm excited to talk about like some of the markers that my nervous system gives me about that, how the nervous system works, and like how my healing journey, and like I like to call it more of a path than a journey, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of how that's been over the past couple of years, and just like give people a couple like tangible things to help them move forward instead of just like gobbledygook that doesn't help, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So excited.
I'm excited because I think these two topics go hand in hand, and I think
totally
more so than people even know. So Kristine is like a nervous system coach and does a lot of just helping guide people when they're feeling dysregulated. She hosts a lot of beautiful like workshops and stuff like that, and just it's not one size fits all. I like your approach that it's very, you know, tailored to the person and what they're going through.
Oh my god, fix me.
We'll talk after.
Here's my business card.
I need my nervous system fixed so bad. Do you want to come to my therapy appointments with me?
I'll just like fly on the wall in your therapy
Yeah.
appointments. Yeah,
Oh my god, I
for
would
sure.
love that.
I actually love that we're talking about therapy, because that's something that I think people get, like maybe that's a misconception, me jumping like 7 questions ahead already, but but I think that is like a big misconception of like, well, nervous system work is what I'm doing in therapy.
Yeah.
And so therapy goes from like a top-down approach typically, which means that you go through like your thoughts and then your emotions. So you're trying to like think your way through a problem without feeling it.
Yeah.
And nervous system work goes bottom up, which is actually your body's natural way of processing. It goes sensation, emotion, and then thought. So if you've ever been in therapy and your therapist is asking you like, well, why do you think you have this behavior? Why do you think you're seeing this cycle or pattern show up? And you're like, I have no clue. Oh, can we swear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue. It's because you're so you might be disconnected from your body and like how you are feeling in those patterns. So you're trying to like over intellectualize when your body's like, dude, like you're coming from like your head where you're trying to intellectualize and like process the problem when your body hasn't necessarily felt it first. So when you go bottom up and you go through sensations first of like, when I public speak, I feel this way, or when people are condescending me, I feel this way, or like when my partner doesn't like validate what I'm saying in an argument, I feel this way, and you go that route, then you can usually get to the bottom of like, well, okay, then the thought is actually coming from the sensation instead of being like, I have no idea why my partner pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
So I think like the work that I do with like the nervous system, I like to say like complements therapy. It's not a replacement. Like therapy still has like so many great benefits, but I think it's a really nice complement of going like, okay, like what does my body feel when I have these thoughts, instead of just being like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely a deeper dive, because some people don't necessarily do well in therapy. Like I know lots of people who just don't thrive with that approach
100%.
or like they're just like, I don't, the whole sitting and just like, how does that make you feel? Like they don't feel like it's helping them.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no,
You
like
also
they're
really
like,
have to find like that person that clicks with you,
For
because
sure.
there's so many different types of therapists
Yeah.
out there. Like there's ones that specialize in ADHD, and like they'll do different things to help get it out of you comfortably, right?
110%. And I'm so lucky that like my therapist, our therapist, we share a therapist.
Love that for you both. Yeah.
Before we even like,
And now we do couples therapy.
but like we hit it off right away, and I was like, this is the bitch for me. Like I'm keeping her, and it's
She
been
was my
right
client first, and then I was like, no.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I'm firing you, and I'm becoming your client.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like when you know, you know. Like,
Yeah.
it truly is, like, you have to date your therapist. And I think I was really lucky with my first therapist, too, where, like, we clicked instantly, and I had her for a really long time, but my problem with, my therapist is, and I think something that, like, I'm trying to overcome myself, is you get to a level of self-awareness where I'm like, what is my therapist telling me?
Yes.
Where I'm like, I'm like, they're reaffirming things I already know. It's almost like I'm going to like a cheerleading appointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I'm
you're
like
already
so
know
I like
this.
had this situation happen, and like this is how I feel about it, and they're just like, okay, have you thought about the other person's perspective? Like that kind of stuff where I'm like, yeah, obviously. Like
Yeah.
like yeah, I thought about it from like a million different angles. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I am an overthinker. But I think like sometimes you get to that point of like self-awareness, or where like your capacity, which we can talk about like from a nervous system perspective, gets so big where I don't feel like I'm getting my like $200 an hour worth.
Yeah.
And it's so tough because I'm sure that I just need to go I need to go back to the dating pool and do my speed dating again to find another therapist. But I feel like that's not talked about enough too.
Well, yeah, because you can graduate for sure. Like it's like I got all I needed from you, and now I maybe need to go down a different path, because when I started with my therapist, it was like very like an introduction, obviously, and we got to as far as we could go, just the talking route, and then it was like, okay, well, I think we need to like dive deeper into like parts work and shadow work and like do things like that. So I mean, if she wasn't able to do that and she recommended it, then I would probably have found someone that
I hate that work.
it's
that makes
intense.
it not hard.
It's
hard.
Yeah,
That's
it's
when I
intense.
want to break up with her.
I know. I know. I had one session, and like normally I'm a pretty strong person.
Yeah.
Like she'll go in on me a little bit because like she's like, you can take it. I know what you can take. And there was one time where I was just looking at the clock and I was like, can I go now? And she's like, yeah, of course. Like you don't have to stay. And then the next time I came in, she's like, I'm so sorry. Like I don't know. I feel like I went too hard on you. And I was like, no, it's a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I'm okay until I'm not. And then it's just like overwhelming. And then you kind of crawl back in and you're not going to do any beneficial work at that point. So you gotta call it quits for the day.
And I think that's like, so like I really want to go down the route of somatic experiencing and become a somatic experiencing practitioner. And I think in situations like that where like somatics comes in, is there's this concept called pendulation. And it's where we take you to a place that might be like a little bit scary or on the edge of what your capacity is. So like whatever parts work you were maybe doing. And then we kind of notice like what are the sensations when you get there. But then you pull yourself back to safety. So you're reminding your body like, okay, I can touch that edge, or that like, if you think of trauma or anything like that, like a wound, you can touch like around the wound. You're not going to go digging in it, obviously, because that's going to be incredibly painful, even if the wound is from when you were 2. Yeah. Right? But you can maybe go like touch around the wound a little bit and then like put some like polysporin on it. Right? If that makes sense to people.
Of course.
So it's like I've come up with like, I don't like affirmations, but it's something that I tell myself when I'm like, oh, I really don't like how this feels, or I'm getting really close to like a really sensitive part. I'm like, I'm safe. Yeah. Because if you can tell your body like I'm safe, it's a really great tool to regulate your nervous system and be like, I'm good, I'm chilling, like it's all good. But I think like thinking about our emotional trauma like an actual wound, and the fact that like you're gonna get scar tissue, you're gonna like touching it is gonna be incredibly uncomfortable. Like if you can conceptualize it in that way, I think it's really helpful to be like, yeah, the scar tissue that I'm forming over top of this, just like normal scar tissue, is like not as flexible. It's really rigid. It has no nerve endings, right? Like it's really easy for us to get disconnected from it.
Oh my god, this is like, my mind is blown already.
Right?
Yeah,
So I think
I like to keep talking.
But I think when we can conceptualize it around that of like, of course the way you heal from that wound is going to look so different than when it happened. And like, don't beat yourself up about it. Like you have the scar tissue. Yeah, does it feel a little bit different? Sure. But like you did it, and you're healing, and you're like starting to let that like wound close over. But don't take away from the fact that like kind of digging around in there a little bit through therapy, or like situations that come up in your life are gonna feel uncomfortable. But it's like, what can I tell myself? What can I do that's going to allow me to feel safe in those moments and know that like the wound will close.
Yeah, and small
and I'm
progress.
Okay. What's the Band-Aid?
Yeah, small progress is still progress, and like a step in the right direction.
100%.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to do a little bit of a backtrack.
Yes.
First.
No, I know.
Yes.
Because I just want to know a little bit about you. Like,
Yes.
give us a backstory, your journey, how that affected, like, maybe where you ended up or how you got into this work. And
For sure. So should I take you back to when my parents divorced, or like is that too far back?
let's hear that.
Okay,
What
great.
a good time to be alive.
So picture this: it's 2002. I'm living in Ottawa. My parents split. I'm just
You're
kidding.
just upstairs playing Just Dance while they're fighting downstairs.
Babes, I was 2. I was.
Do you speak French?
I do.
Ooh,
Like-
parlez-vous français?
Oui, un petit peu.
Ooh. Okay, Slay.
Wow. Hot. We're in
anyways.
love.
I feel like that was actually a quite pivotal moment in my childhood. But anyways, grew up in Ottawa, was there with my mom until I was 15, 16, and then wanted to try living with my dad. He lives in Toronto, so when they split, he moved down to Toronto. And so I was going like back and forth with my parents my whole childhood. My dad was very much like a Disney dad, so I would see him once a month. So because of that, like, he was obviously, all the fun experiences were with dad. It was like, we're going to museums, we're doing all these things, we're going to like roller coasters, we're going to like theme parks, like all of that stuff. So he was very much like Disney dad in my eyes. And like, I never got disciplined by him. I only got disciplined by my mom. So my mom had to be like both the person consoling me, but also being like, don't fucking do that again. So tough on my mom for sure. Anyways, wanted to try living with my dad. Fucking mistake. So that was fun and exciting. And then graduated high school, went to University of Guelph, did human kinetics there, and that's where I really fell in love with like movement, the body, physiology, like neuroscience, all of that stuff. Still didn't know that I wanted to do this work. But then started to get into like personal training and working with people, coaching, really loved that. And I started to notice like with a lot of my clients that they would come in after a really stressful day and they would have like not shitty workouts, but they just wouldn't be getting the best out of the workouts because like their nervous system was already completely like collapsed or in overdrive or whatever. So it was really affecting like their workouts and like getting the best results. And so I started to really notice like, what if I focused on like the root problem? Like the root problem isn't their nutrition, it's not their body image necessarily, or like it's not body image would be, I guess, a root, but it's not like the fact, it's not their nutrition, it's not the fact that they can't get here, like it's not their motivation or discipline or anything like that. Like there's something
like
underneath
doing all
this.
the things,
yeah,
but
I'm like,
they're not.
what's underneath all of this, or like why are they struggling with these things and they like can't keep them up? I'm like, it's not because they're not coming, it's not because we're not doing all the right things, like progressive overload and all of that. I'm like, what's actually happening? And so I did like a huge pivot and like not coaching anymore, don't have any like personal training clients, and I've really just like dropped into this like nervous system work and like really getting down to why is your nervous system dysregulated, and then like let's work on that first before we go into like the other goals that you have.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very much the same with skincare when we see those like inflammatory conditions that dysregulated nervous system, because a lot of what we see on the surface of the skin is a result of disharmony internally. So when we see rosacea and we see pigmentation, acne, stuff like that, they could be using the best products. They could be coming in once a month, doing all the things, drinking water, eating well, and they're still having an issue. And it's because we need to target internally the root cause. And that's a huge, huge thing.
I feel like that's what like I learned with my rosacea, because I know like when I came in to see Lex, when I was like, I just want to get a facial, you know, like girl time, self-care
And
day.
I humbled her.
Yeah, self-care day. And then I walked in and she was like, you have rosacea. And I was like, cool, thanks. And then my favorite thing was coming out into the clinic, and she was like, yeah, so I like took my finger across your cheek and it like flaked, like frosted flakes. And I was like, period. And then she says this in front of the entire clinic, and I was like, wow, I didn't think I was gonna be humbled in front of everybody. But I think it was like, that was like a really, like, that helped me so much, because my mom has rosacea and I never like really clocked it, because growing up I was so
flakes.
frosted.
Her skin was disintegrating.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
She's gonna humble you on the podcast too. Not just the clinic.
Yeah.
Let's let
No.
every listener know.
I love the tough love. You know what I mean? It's not gonna sink in unless it's tough love. So, and it truly is love, right? So I hope.
Of course. I love you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
I won't
good.
talk about your frosted flakes anymore.
I'll come in, I'll be like, I'm working on the frosted flakes.
No, your skin looks great.
It
Thank
does.
you.
Like, even, I feel, obviously, you have, like, baseline redness.
But you also had a chemical peel today.
No, the funniest thing, can we talk about the chemical peel? Because I went for this chemical peel today, and, like, I can wake up in the morning and look like this. Where... I'm not gonna be able to get through this. I can wake up in the morning and like this is the redness I'm working with, and that was my normal. Like that was I didn't think that would stop it. I didn't think that was like not like what my skin was supposed to look like. I was just like, okay, it is what it is, and move on with my day. And I think because I never had like acne where it was like I feel like people are either like you have good skin or you have acne. Like they don't talk about all the other things like pigmentation or anything like that. I was like, well, I don't have acne, I have good skin. Like that was just like the story I told myself. And then it wasn't until I was humbled.
You do have good skin. Like your skin is great. It's just that skin. Underlying redness that we want to treat and target. And you obviously know as a nervous system coach that like you're gonna have flare-ups, and that's totally normal. But, you know, I just want to make sure that it doesn't get worse.
Absolutely. And I think, like, knowing what it is now, like, my mom found out about her rosacea, like, much, much later in life. And I think, like, she really, like, beats herself up about it. And we can talk about my mom's dysregulated nervous system another time. But,
on the next podcast.
But no, I think it's almost like this warning sign for me, too, now. Like, if it's starting to flare up, I'm like, okay, like, something's going on. Or, like... there's something like internally that's like affecting me, or my stress levels are a little bit higher than they should be, or like something's bothering me. And so I think like when it starts to flare up, like it's a really good indication for me of like, okay, like how is my inner harmony? Or like a question that I love to ask people is like, how is the weather within you? Ooh, because I think it's again like the whole like scar and wound idea. It's something that like people can hold on to. So it's like, how is the weather within you? Is it stormy? Do you feel like it's sunny skies? Are you like chilling by a beach by a beautiful lake? Like, how do you feel right now, instead of just being like, how you doing?
See, I feel like someone asked me that, and I'm just like,
the storm is brewing.
No, I don't feel that. Like, I just feel like I'm just coasting.
And okay, I also love that, because I think a big misconception about like nervous system work and a healing journey and going to therapy and all that stuff is it can be boring. Like there are moments where it is boring. Yeah. Like I talk about my nervous system journey, and I went through like a massive burnout period in like about 2023 where like I had a complete nervous system collapse. Like I didn't feel anything. I was like completely numb, like didn't feel anything at all. And I remember like calling my partner that I'm like still with now, and just like being on the phone with him and being like, I feel nothing. And I could feel that like just feeling like a brick on his chest, because he's like Mr. Fix It. We love a fixer. Yeah. So he was like, what can I do? And I remember saying like literally nothing, because I don't even know what to do. Like, what do you mean? What can you want me to give you a task right now? I can't even give myself a task. Like what? So I think that can be so hard for the people around you when like you're going through that stuff. So, and in those moments, like you're not feeling compassion for them. You're like, I don't even feel anything myself. Yeah. Right. So like going through all of that, and then just hitting like a complete rock bottom where I was working like 4 jobs, still barely able to make rent, like financially strapped, like all of these things, like didn't like how I felt in my body, was eating like shit, like all of these things just completely fell apart, and I just like completely hit rock bottom. And then like looked around at rock bottom and was like, well, this ain't comfy. Like don't really want to be staying here. And then it was just like finding the right therapist, or it was like starting to like even talk about it with friends and being like, I'm really struggling, and then other people being like, okay, and I'm here for you. Right. And I think that speaks to like co-regulation of feeling in those like really scary, unsafe places, but being held in those places. And a lot of times that goes back to like how we felt as a kid. Like I never felt safe to like fully express myself as a kid, so of course I'm gonna try to deal with my burnout completely alone, because it never felt safe for me to be like, I'm struggling, like I'm not doing well, because like it would just be like, well, too bad, pull up your pants, or like, you know, grab your boots, put them on and go. Like I definitely
relate to that.
So I think that can be so tough. But like as I've gotten on this journey of like like regulating my nervous system, learning about the nervous system, learning about like somatic movement, like body work, all of that stuff. Like it really comes down to like those micro movements. Like what is like one tiny thing today that you can do for like future you, right? So like when I was coming out of my burnout, it was like, okay, like what is something that I can work on? Okay, breakfast. I'm gonna have like a nutritious breakfast every day. Boom. If I was able to do that for like a couple weeks, great. Let's add another thing. Because that's how you're like slowly building your capacity. If you try to do it all at once, you're just gonna collapse again.
Much. Yeah.
But that can feel so frustrating because this is like, that was back in 2023. It's 2025 now. And I finally feel like I'm at a place where like it would take a lot to rock my boat. That's 2 years. Like healing doesn't happen overnight. And I think this whole idea that like it's an overnight sensation and then you're just like, boom, you come out the other side and you're like, I'm healed.
Yeah.
Like that's just not how it works. And the same happens with like skincare, like this, all of those things where you're trying to change in your life. It's gonna take time.
Yeah.
And it can feel so frustrating when you're on that journey and you're like, I just want to be healed.
Yeah.
I don't want this to bug me anymore. I don't want to feel like I'm like snapping at people about this anymore. I don't want to shut down. Like it can feel so frustrating.
Especially when you're self-aware. Like when you know that
what you're doing. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Sure.
So I think like those micro movements really helped me. Somatic work really helped me. So a lot of times as women, we don't have a way to like display our anger. Like we can't, like feminine rage is a thing and it's really hard to like get that out. And my burnout also happened because I was so disconnected from myself. So a lot of it started with just like sitting in silence. It sounds so trivial and like ridiculous, but sitting in silence, because I used to be the person that would have the TV on, TikTok on my phone, and like a pot boiling on the stove or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that there would be like 4 sources of noise because I was like, I could not be alone with myself.
Max stimulation.
100% overstimulated.
Yeah.
And so I started like, if I go out for a run or go for walks now, like I don't even bring headphones. Like I just go for a walk. Or like if
I wish I could get to that. Like I will literally not work out if I don't have headphones. I can't.
Okay, yeah, working out's like fair. Working out's a little bit different because I feel like you have to also be like in a zone, in a way. But like if I want to go for a walk or like whenever I'm dog sitting, I take the dogs out without like, I bring my phone for like safety reasons or whatever. But like I don't bring my phone to like listen to music or anything like that. And I feel like it really helps you become like aware of what's going on, or even just process your day because you're actually like listening to the thoughts coming by
and just present
instead
of like suppressing everything.
And the other thing too with presence is you do not feel, well, I wouldn't say you do not feel fear, but if you're able to come into the present moment, and that's another like somatic experiencing principle of orienting, is if you're able to come into the present moment by like orienting to your space. So like looking at the 4 corners of the room you're in, noticing the colors of the room, noticing how the like air feels in the room, like just orienting yourself to the space, you come into the present moment because you're like, okay, the corner wouldn't look like that 5 seconds ago. It won't look like that in 5 seconds. And so you're coming into the present moment, and in the present moment you won't feel fear. Like I don't feel fear talking to you guys. I don't feel fear at all right now because I'm not worried about the past or, you know, worrying about the future. I'm in the present, and I don't feel fear in the present. So I think that can be a really great tool when you're feeling overwhelmed and all of like life feels like it's crashing down. It's just like take out all the stimulus, take out all the noise, and sit in the present moment and literally be like, okay, the cabinets I'm looking at are brown. The color of the room is white. I'm staring at a bright light in my eyes. Like whatever. There's you know what I mean? But like, or, you know, I'm looking at a can that's blue. I, you know, can touch the, like this tin next to me. Like if you're able to come into the present moment, like you don't feel fear in that moment because like there's nothing around me right now that is a threat. But if I start to think about the past and I'm like, I'm really pissed off that like I'm having a Coke today. I told myself I wasn't going to have a Coke. Or I'm really pissed off that like, you know, I spent money on blank today, or I didn't eat as well as I wanted to, or I didn't put sunscreen on, whatever it is, you're worrying about the past, and yeah, fear lives there. Or same thing as fear can live in the future, right? When we worry about the future, but if you can come into the present moment, like there is no fear.
That's amazing.
I could just listen to you.
Yes, seriously, I'm like, just keep going.
Yeah, I know. Take over.
Yes, please.
We don't even have to be here.
That's fabulous. No, honestly, like so much valuable information. Crazy. Also, like, side note, she also has a podcast. I mean, it's
in under construction, I guess.
Yeah,
right
going
so
through,
it will be changed, but it does. We do talk about some like meaningful things on there right now,
and
like
you still have the episodes
stuff,
up. So I would definitely take a look at.
It'll be in the show notes. Can I speak to one that I'm remembering?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like one of the things that I did want to talk about is embodiment. Because I call myself like an embodiment and nervous system coach. And I think embodiment gets like thrown around a lot because people are like, embody your future self, embody your best self, like embody
it's
the
like
best
the
version
like
of yourself.
Instagram.
And it's like, and I think too, like embodying your like future self, like to me embodying is in the present moment, and it's also like embodiment in general to me is like living in your truth, living in a space where you're fully expressed. And so yes, you can embody your future self, but again, that's taking you to a place that you're not currently in. So embodiment to me is like really living in that truth. And speaking to some of the work that we do in like therapy and all of that, I feel like there's like different phases that we go through when we're learning about ourselves. So we have like the work that we do in therapy, which is like excavation work, which is what you're digging deep, you know, you're excavating, you're getting the backhoe out, you know.
Love the analogy.
So you have your excavation work first, right? So you're doing all this digging, and you're figuring out all these like cycles and patterns and stories you tell yourself and all of that stuff. And then you have embodiment. And this is where you're able to just like be that person. Like you did all this work, you figured out all these things, and now you're like, okay, this is the person that I want to be from all the work I did. And then there's also integration. So like you can embody, and then you can also be like, okay, well, how does this show up in my life now? Like how am I able to be this new embodied person in my life? Like how does that show up in my relationships? How does that show up in my work, in my business, and whatever? So I feel like we kind of like cycle through these stages because you can't constantly be in integration. Like there'll always be more excavation work to do, but to spend all this time, like I think that's why you graduate therapy, because you can't constantly be excavating because that's exhausting. Like you also have to just like live. And I think embodying is like doing that excavation and then like living in it and being like, how does this work now? Like how is this new version of me like actually like go about the world? Like how do I see things? How do I function? Like all of those things. And then like really integrating that into your life to get to a point where like, cool, I'm comfortable with this person that I am now. I want to go back and like go a little bit deeper. And then you just kind of like keep cycling that.
I think it is important to continue to do that work. Like you're never gonna just finish therapy and be like, okay, I'm done, I don't have to go back. Like it's continuous work. And I guess you probably talk about a path instead of a journey, because like there are times where you might revert back, or you might go through something that really triggers you, and you might not use the knowledge that you've learned and approach the situation with that new knowledge. But it's all about continuous growth and continuing to learn from it and going back and just
100%. I also just like think journey is so overused. Like you know, but like also like also exactly what you said of like it's a path, and like the path winds and can go backwards and like can go over bridges, underwater, whatever. And like journey just seems so like flippant now. Like it's just like, oh, I'm on my healing journey. Like I'm like I just don't like the way that sounds anymore, because I feel like it's lost its meaning. So I like the idea of saying like I'm on my healing path.
You did talk about when you were like personal training and stuff like that, you would see that they had, you know, dysregulated nervous systems and whatnot. How can you tell that someone is going through that, and how would you know that they're regulated versus dysregulated?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like starting off with like what the different nervous system states might be helpful with that. So I use a concept called the nervous system ladder. And so if you want to like envision like a step ladder or like a ladder leaning against a house or whatever. So at the top of the ladder is like your safety zone. So this is when you feel like I'm in control. You can access things like joy, creativity, like connection. You're like, I feel safe. This is when like your breath is kind of normal in quotations, and you're able to like take a full breath in. You feel at ease. Like you feel very like connected to your surroundings, very present. Right? And then if you start to move down the ladder, the middle of the ladder is your fight or flight. So this is your mobilization zone. So if we go way, way back to when we were like running from dinosaurs, this would be when like you're like, oh my God, a dinosaur is coming, and I either need to fight my way through or I need to run. So that's why this is mobilization, where like you get a ton of energy to your limbs. So you can feel like your heart is racing. You can feel like you have like, you're almost like shaking or like agitated in your hands. This is a lot of times when you feel like I need to do something, like there's this like frantic need to like move or do something. And then as we move further down the ladder, the bottom is your immobilization zone, or this is where you like feel that like freeze or shut down. So this is where if we're still using that dinosaur analogy, you would like play dead. So like you would completely collapse and like freeze. So in those moments, it's where you feel nothing. So a lot of people experiencing burnout.
Oh, so you're saying I'm at the bottom?
I'm not saying that. I feel fine.
I was like, okay, so I'm in fight or flight, and then she explained the next one. I was like, oh, okay, I'm there.
I'm in flight. Flight for
So
Frozen.
I feel fine and I feel nothing aren't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're at the bottom where you're like, I feel nothing, your body can feel very like heavy. That would be at the bottom of the ladder. And I always like to say that this ladder, it's not like each rung is good or bad. Like being a regulated person doesn't mean that you are at the top of the ladder all the time. It just means that you're able to like go down the ladder and come up the ladder all within your window of tolerance. So if you imagine like a tunnel, I guess, and then like a wave going through the tunnel, you ideally want to be going like up and down this wave of like things happen in your life. Like we're not going through life with no stress. That's impossible. But your tunnel is so big. Ideally, and your window of tolerance is so big that this like wave going through the tunnel is never like breaking the top of the tunnel. It's just kind of going through. You're able to be like, okay, like this thing happened and I'm able to come back to myself. This thing happened, I'm able to resource. This thing happened and I'm not going to snap. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to shut down because you know what your body needs in that moment. Versus going beyond your window of tolerance, which I feel like trauma also gets this. Trauma doesn't need to be like a big thing, scary thing. So there's like big T and little t trauma. So big T trauma would be like domestic violence, sexual abuse, like some of the big ones that are like quite physical. But there's also like little t trauma, which is like not being seen or heard as a kid, or like some of the emotional side of it is like little t trauma. But trauma in general is just anytime you go beyond your window of tolerance or beyond your capacity to cope, that's trauma. So if you think about that, that's anytime that you're like breaking out of this tunnel, right? So the idea here is that you're moving up and down the ladder, you're going through this wave, but ideally you're within this tunnel. And over time, as you start to learn, like, what are some of my triggers? What are some of the things that are going to make me go down the ladder into freeze, into fight or flight or whatever? You're able to be like, okay, I know how that feels. And so I know how to come back to myself. I know to tell myself I feel safe. I know to go for a walk. I know to like step away from a conversation, whatever. So I think when it comes to like dysregulation, if we're looking at fight or flight, that can look like kind of playing with your hands quite a bit, heart racing. So if your heart's starting to race, sometimes like your face can go red. You might feel like you need to like do all these things all at once. So like a lot of times this looks at like overworking, doom scrolling can sometimes show up here. Because you're trying to like do something or like get your energy out,
or like even numb, maybe like not process or deal with it, but try to like suppress procrastination can happen with this one too, because you're trying to like do something, but like but like sometimes you don't want to like do the thing that like you maybe want to do, so you're like, I need to get this energy out in another way. And then if you're in like collapse or like the nervous system shutdown, a lot of times you feel really heavy. It feels like any movement is like impossible. You can feel really like disconnected from things, or like really quiet. Like I've always felt like when I'm at the bottom of the ladder is when I don't feel like safe to be seen. So like family events or like family dinners, I shut right down. And like, you guys know my personality. I'm actually like really fun, I hope. But like, not to toot my own horn.
But like, I think I'm like fun and funny and all of that. But when I'm at family dinners, I'm like a completely different person. I completely shut down because I'm like, I don't feel safe here. And that's my like collapsed state. And so like, if you're like, that's how it shows up for me. But I think the other thing with dysregulation and regulation, it looks different for everybody. But like having a general idea of like what those states can feel like for you is a way to what we call map your nervous system. So learning what your triggers are and learning what your glimmers are. So your triggers are anything that's going to pull you down the ladder to like fight or flight or freeze. And then your glimmers are anything that's going to pull you back up to safety. So like one of my glimmers is like petting a dog. Anytime I'm around a dog, not unhappy. Like, I'm good. Not frozen, not in fight or flight. Like, I'm safe.
That's like Madison with a baby. She holds one and she's like, nothing
matters.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah, it's so true. Something just changes in me. When I hold a baby, life turns off.
Yeah, right? Like, so that's like a huge glimmer for you, right? like a trigger for me is like public speaking, right?
God.
Right?
Which is so crazy. Like, I mean, that makes sense, but you are such an amazing speaker, and I feel like you can articulate your thoughts so well.
Big time.
So I'm so surprised, but I mean, I'm sure that's obviously something that you're doing a little bit more with the work you 100%, do. But
and I think like having the podcast has helped me, but I think it's more like when I'm like, I think too, having a podcast is a bit different because like I'm speaking behind like a computer right now. Like you guys don't know what I look like necessarily, but if I was to go in front of like 100 people, like my heart races, I like clam up completely. I can feel like my throat is tightening, my voice gets really high because like my air is all like pressed up to the top, and I go beet red, like more than my rosacea normal.
More than my baseline.
More than my baseline. I go beet red, but and it's happened like not too long ago at like an event I was at. I had like this little thing where like they asked for like a reflection on the day, and I was like, I'll do it. And then I like looked at my hand in the air and was like, what the fuck? And so I like, I was like, why did I do that? And so anyways, walking up to this podium, and I could feel it. I was like, heart's pounding. I was going beet red, and I was like, you just got to do it, because you know that when you sit back down, you'll be so proud of yourself for just doing it. Yeah. And you know when you sit back down, you know how to resource. Like you know what you have to do to resource yourself. So you like, anyways, say this little like reflection, sit back down, and I know that when I'm in fight or flight, so I guess some tangible examples and like things to do when you're in each zone. So when I'm in fight or flight, if you think about like running away from a dinosaur, you obviously wouldn't be able to think about your breath. Like you wouldn't be like actively running and being like, okay, box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold at the bottom for 4. Like there's no way you would be able to like think about that, right? So if you're able, like when you're in fight or flight, if you're able to focus on your breath and like bringing that back to yourself of doing box breathing, or even just like inhaling through one nostril, exhaling through the other, like any way that you're able to kind of slow your breath down, because a lot of times that state is associated with like a elevated heart rate, elevated breath, you're able to like resource yourself and come back to safety. And then when it comes to freeze, because freeze feels like that complete collapse and where like any movement is really tough, sometimes it's as simple as like wiggling your fingers or wiggling your toes and just like coming back to the present of like, okay, I can make these movements and I'm safe, because you're going from like a complete shutdown to like even just a little bit of movement. So sometimes that can help. But in all of this work, like it's all about those like little tiny shifts that you can do to slowly like come back to yourself, or even just like be in your body. Nervous system work is also not like red light therapy or going for like a hot cold like plunge, or a lot of these like wellness things. Like regulating your nervous system can be incredibly difficult if you're living in a place with like extreme poverty, or if you're dealing with like gender equality or like racial inequality or any of those things. Like nervous system regulation isn't as simple as like doing a yoga class, meditating, or any of those things, because if you don't have like some of the core basic needs like housing, like financial like stability, or food, or like any of those things, like that is gonna like throw your nervous system out of whack before like you go out and go, I went to a yoga class. Right? Like a lot of times nervous system regulation starts with like, how are we sitting right now with your basic needs? Like, are you able to comfortably make rent and like put food on the table and all those things? Are you able to comfortably like do some of those basic needs? Or is that like the baseline that we're starting with, and then we'll work from there? Because I think nervous system work gets like glorified in this wellness space where it's like, it's like putting your red light mask on, or putting your feet in those like compression leggings or whatever, and it's like, no babes, it's not.
And it's like, all like it, like those things are great, 100%. But it's all superficial, kind of like it helps the journey, but it's not. But like targeting still, 100%,
like, that's like top of the pyramid. Like a salt, what are they called? The salt baths.
Oh,
or
yeah,
like
we just
the
did that.
We just did that. The salt floats or whatever. And like all of those spaces are great and are like definitely give you a sense of calm. But I think nervous system regulation really starts with like your basic needs met.
It is a luxury add-on though, because not everyone that needs nervous system regulation, even though that's not like the core thing that's going to help you regulate it, can't even access some of those things to begin with, because it can be pricier. It's the same thing with in skincare, if we're comparing it to tiers. Like you need to have your base routine, your base thing that's going to help with the condition that we're trying to treat, and then other things like the LED mask or a nice face mask, like they're great and they help and they're add-ons to what we're trying to achieve.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I know that, like, when I'm, financially stressed, or there's, like, relational stress or whatever, like, my rosacea flares up, and, like, those are some of the lifestyle factors that are going to affect, like, my skin condition. And I think it goes the same with, like, your nervous system. Like, you could be, like, the most regulated person with, like, the biggest tunnel ever, right? And if you go through like a death, or you go through like a big financial crisis or whatever, like, all of those things are going to shake your foundation, right? And so I think it's really going back to, like, do you have, like, secure housing? Like, how is your financial situation? And when you're able to, like, feel safe in some of those areas, you'll start to notice, like, how much it affects the rest of your life. Like, I felt that where I was working 4 jobs, completely burnt out, like, I was barely making rent. When I was finally able to get a job where I was able to make rent, and it was like the 30% that it's fucking supposed to be, or whatever, which is so unrealistic, and like, I didn't have that stress at the end of every month anymore. Like, I felt like a huge weight off my shoulders, and that moment my capacity grew so much more because I wasn't constantly like looking at the number of my bank account. So I think, like, it's sometimes not as like fancy as like therapy or like all of these other modalities, or like breath work. Sometimes it's literally like, are you in a place where like you're not stressed about some of your basic needs? When I was completely burnt out, I was in what people call like a functional freeze, where like you're completely collapsed, but you still have to like go about life. You still have a job, you still have like things to do, but you're like completely collapsed. And in those moments, I was so disconnected from myself that like just slowing down enough to like lay on the floor and do breath work, like I would like cry every time, because I was like, I had no idea how my body felt. Like, I had no idea how heavy my chest was, like how my body was like carrying this like emotional weight. And so I think like when I started just like sitting in silence, or even just like doing breath work, like I think the first time I did breath work with like a little visualization, I truly felt like my whole world was like spinning. Like, when you're drunk and you like go to lay down and you have the spins, that's how I felt. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I remember talking to my coach and being like, that was incredibly uncomfortable. And she was like, yeah, it was probably the first time that your body felt anything from your freeze. And I was like, holy shit. Like, and so I think sometimes like coming out of a freeze, or like doing some of this nervous system work, like feeling can be scary. And like being with people who are able to like do that with you, or like knowing what to do when that happens, or being in safe spaces when that happens, is incredibly helpful. And I think that really speaks to like co-regulation and the people that you're around. So when I was in that burnout, I was with people who like gossiped. I was with people who were like probably not the best influence on me, and probably also very dysregulated. And so like your nervous system can like mirror who's around you. So if you're around people who are like regulated, or you're around people who are calm and are like safe and allow you to be fully seen and expressed, like your nervous system is going to go, oh wait, like I can be like this, and it's safe for me to be like this. So I think a big thing that helped me was like co-regulation, and being in spaces where I can be like, I'm struggling with this and I need help, or even like want to fully express myself, and then being with people who are like, yeah, and we're here for you. So I think co-regulation is a big one, and even just like learning that sometimes feeling is going to be uncomfortable, and you have to learn how to like get through that, but you have to feel your feelings. Like you can't run away from it. Run away from them, because like this kind of goes back to actually like a really great tool, which is somatic shaking. Which is when you have like an excess of energy. Kyle's doing this in the back. I love it.
He does it all the time,
yeah,
like seriously.
But no, it's such a great tool. So if we go back to a lot of the like principles of somatic experiencing too, like it's all rooted in the fact that like animals go through traumatic events all the time, right? Like there's like the gazelle getting chased by the lion, and then the gazelle like somehow escapes the lion, and then they're just like off to do the rest of their day, right? They're not completely shut down or overwhelmed by their trauma. They're not just like, I need to go like die in a hole now. Like they're able to be like, okay, and next, so they were like looking at these principles, and they were like, why as humans do we like hold on to it? And it's because we don't have like the same release. So if you look at like, there's videos online that you can find of like animals after a traumatic event literally convulsing, like shaking, and it's just like an involuntary response that they have to get the excess energy out that they had after a fight or flight or freeze. And so we as humans, we don't do that. So somatic shaking, like literally just like shimmying, shaking, dancing, any of those things can be a really great tool to like get the excess energy out, so it isn't stored in your body. Because when you have like a really stressful event and the emotion or the feeling has nowhere to go, it's going to be stored in your body. And that's why, like, women, we have really tight hips, or like that's why your shoulders are starting to come up by your ears by the end of the day, and like your shoulders are really tight, you're getting migraines.
Let me correct my posture.
Yeah. But like you're getting like migraines and stuff like that, and that's why like when you aren't able to feel your feelings, like it can lead to like bigger issues like digestive issues and migraines, and like for women like PCOS and like some of these other things, because like your body's actively holding on to like that tension and that like stored guck almost.
If you could go back and speak to the version of you who is frustrated, flaring, and feeling stuck, what would you tell her?
Oh my god, that's such a good one. I feel like that one's gonna get me emotional. I think that I would just tell her that she eventually will find spaces and people that will love her for who she truly is, not the mask she's putting up. Because I think like I used to think that I had to like be someone else to fit in, and like the only spaces that were safe for me to be like fully expressed were when I was alone. And so I think as I've like learned about co-regulation and all of those things, like just learning that like if I am myself, like I'm going to attract people like you guys that are like, wow, we think you're really cool and we want to talk to you.
Yes, seriously.
You know, but like I would have like never even had this opportunity because the person you would have met a couple years ago wouldn't have been this at all. And so I think like learning that like be yourself, and like all those aligned opportunities, all those aligned experiences that you're chasing are going to come to you because they're coming to you, not
and
the person.
It's meant for you.
Yeah, not the person that you think you're trying to be. Yeah.
Wow, that was beautiful. I don't know. It's been such an amazing conversation, and it really eye-opening too, just to learn about it at a deeper level that I'm like, I need to like have part 2 of this conversation. Just like, like I need help.
Yeah.
Like, help me.
I'm signing up today.
Seriously.
We'll chit chat.
Like I need it.
We've talked about like, I guess, practices and modalities that you use for clients and stuff like that.
Oh, one that I find like really simple that people can do, like probably after listening to this if they're commuting, is singing. So like humming and singing activate your vagus nerve, which is your longest nerve in your body, and it's like the biggest connection between your brain and your body.
Yeah.
And so humming is a way to stimulate this nerve, and it can bring like a big overwhelming sense of like calm to your body and safety, and super accessible.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something easy you
to
can do.
Like just, you know, belt your heart out. Yeah.
What's something you wish every woman knew about her body, nervous system, and skin?
Oh my god. Wow. Okay, that's why we're wrapping it up.
She's loaded.
She's loaded.
She's very loaded. I'm reading a book right now called Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it's like the Bible for women, in my opinion. But it's all about all these like ancient like female archetypes, and
What's
like
it called again?
it's called Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Literally opens
We'll be in
Amazon.
we'll be in the show notes. We'll be in the show notes. So I'm reading this.
Buy me one.
I'm reading this book, and it's all about like ancient female archetypes and like how women were healers and like different things that we did like in the past, like past. And I think that like women carry this need to be like a fixer and like a healer and like do all these things for other people. And because we're like caregivers and doing so much for other people, we forget about ourselves.
Totally.
And so I think like, as cliche as it is, like you have to pour into your own cup before you can pour into others. And so I think like if it's anything that I can say to people is just like, what is like one thing that you can do, like singing in the car, that is pouring into your cup? Like what's a drop? It doesn't have to be a gallon. It doesn't have to be like, you know, even if your cup right now is an espresso cup, it's tiny and that's all you're trying to pour into. Like what is like one thing every day, like a ritual or a practice that you can do that is like pouring into your own cup? Is it your skincare routine? Is it singing in the car? Is it making your favorite coffee before you grab your phone in the morning? Is it, you know, grabbing your favorite coffee once a week? Like what is one thing that you're able to do that's like a drop? Don't think about the whole cup, don't think about the whole vessel, like one tiny thing that you're able to do for you that has like no benefit to anybody else.
But it's hard, I think, sometimes to do or just think about the small things because you always think of it as like this big thing that you have to do to refill yourself and your cup. Like I really struggle with an all or nothing mentality.
Same. Yeah.
I'm so bad for it. Like, it's just, I'm all there or I'm not.
Yeah.
Even with little things like going to the gym. It's just, I really struggle with that.
No,
so.
and for sure. And I think like one thing about that, I also struggle with that a lot because I'm like trying to be on my like running journey, whatever. Like,
I hate running.
yeah, I also like, again, like the story I told myself is like, I'm not a runner. And so I wasn't a runner.
Yeah.
But I think like, like going for a run and like getting to those tough points and then being like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, or like,
even
I'm
if you
safe
could only
to do
run
this.
to the stop sign, like,
Who cares?
Yeah.
Even if I can only run down my driveway to my car.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, you know? But I think with the all or nothing too is like, okay, what is like 10% of my all or nothing?
Yeah.
Like going to the gym, not going to happen for me today, but maybe I can walk around the block and that's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes isn't 0.
Yeah.
Right? Like instead of going from 0 to 100, like what's 0 to 10%? I was actually listening to a podcast today where he was talking about like, do things today that like past you were grateful for. Right?
I love this.
Mm-hmm. We do a question of the day at the end of every episode. Everyone has to answer it. It's just something quick, cute. Want everyone to answer.
I feel like we're
listeners
gonna
as
have
well.
to do like a part 2 to this as well because you just are a
come
wealth
back.
of knowledge.
Yeah,
Twist my
seriously.
twist my arm, I'll come back.
please.
please.
No,
I wanna do
no,
that.
yeah.
Also, like you guys will definitely come on my podcast. I want to talk about all things like skin and like skincare and everything. So there will be a part 2 coming
Part
soon.
6.
Yeah,
Part
it's just a
6.
collab
We'll
all
be
the time.
back.
Actually, she's joining the podcast.
She's part of the Skin Scoop now.
Honorary member, yeah.
So, question of the day: what's one embodiment practice every listener should try this week? Even like besides humming, something else that they can do.
Ooh, yeah. Let your body move how it wants to.
Yeah.
So put your favorite song on and just like move around your room. Like let your arms flow, let everything out of your body. Like just move. Because I think you'll maybe notice that your body doesn't move the way you want it to, and try to let that go. Like try to be curious instead of judgmental towards yourself. But I found like that was a really great practice for me to start feeling like safer in my body, and even knowing how my body feels. It's just like putting my favorite song on and dancing to it, because that's like, you think about when you were like 3 years old before all of the worries or any of those things, like you wouldn't have restricted yourself when you danced. You would have been like dancing and playful and like, you know, throwing your limbs around and like looking like a crazy person. And like you had no care or worries back then. And so I think it's a really great way to like bring that playfulness and curiosity back. So like just throw your favorite song on and dance.
Cute.
I do
I love
love
that.
that. We
Yeah.
talked about that before, like when you just blare music and you
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
stretch your limbs and you're dancing. Like I love to listen to music in here and blare it so fucking
And
loud
do
and
interpretive dance.
Yes!
or like stretch and
Yeah.
like feel the burn. Like that's something that just feels grounding.
Yeah.
And I also love the sitting in silence.
Yes, that's another
That's
really good one.
huge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm driving, it's like brain shuts off.
Yeah.
And then you're like looking ahead and it's been 20 minutes and you're like,
Where am I?
remember the
Yeah.
last 20 minutes. I
Yeah.
can't remember what that's called. My therapist said.
So
Oh.
dissociation?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Gonna be honest, a
dancing.
bit of a sign of freeze, but we'll get into that later.
Okay. Now we're the ones being humble. I think the biggest thing for me that I've been doing recently is, because I am so busy and just like doing all the things, when I get home or I'm doing things for myself, I notice that I'm like rushing everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to
Slow down.
like when I'm driving, like road rage. Like I am so crusty when I'm driving, but it's like, it's literally not that deep. Like just fucking relax.
Yeah.
Or like I'll be brushing my teeth and brushing so fast.
Yeah.
Or like, when I'm washing my hair. So I just think I'll wash my face and I go so slow and draw it out, and it's just so nice. And I feel like it is really regulating for me and just like calms me down.
Yeah. Can I give you homework?
Yeah.
Instead of slowing right down after that, shake it first and then slow down.
Okay.
Because I think like the feeling of needing to do it really frantically
You, like,
fast,
need to
is you need to get it out. So like
Yeah.
maybe like just a quick like arm shake, shimmy,
Yeah.
whatever, and then be like, okay, it's out, and now I can slow down.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
like I'm just curious to
Cute.
know like
I
how
love that.
how that works.
I
for
will
you.
try and let you know. Report back.
Shake it off.
yeah.
Let's fucking go. Okay, tell us, where can they
Yeah,
find
where
you?
can they find you?
Ooh, okay. So you can find me on Instagram, and I am a chatty Kathy. So DM me, and we can voice note it up. And that's at Well with Kristine. Kristine is spelled with a K. And
Duh.
obviously. And then you can also check out my website. It's just www. Me aging myself. It's www at it's just wellwithinstudio.ca, and that has all my like programs, my coaching offers, workshops, that kind of thing as well. And then if you are curious a little or more curious about this work and the nervous system, I have a masterclass. It's about an hour that includes a body scan, which is a really great way to kind of like dabble your toes. What is it? What's
Dip your toes.
Dip your
Dabble. Dabble them up.
It's a really great way to just
Dabble.
yeah. Dip your toe into nervous system work, and if you've never done any like meditation or breath work or kind of come home to yourself before, the body scan is quite gentle that way. So we go into like the nervous system ladder concepts a little bit more, and then a little bit of a body scan as well. So that's sometimes a really nice introduction to the type of work if you're still like, Kristine, what the fuck do you do?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to do everything.
This is amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. Like, you are just such a beautiful person.
Yeah.
I could listen to you speak all day.
Thank you for
Crazy.
co-regulating with me.
Like, honestly, we had a crazy day.
Yeah.
We had an event at the clinic, and it was just a lot. Like, we love seeing everybody, but they are always chaotic. So me and Madison came home, and we were just like drained.
Yeah, we're both very like introverted people.
Yeah.
Like, we have an extroverted job, but when
Yeah.
it's extroverted to that extreme, it fucking drains
You're
me.
beyond your capacity a lot.
Yeah, but just sitting with you, I feel so recharged. Like, I feel so calm.
My window of
tolerance
is fucked.
Yeah, I'm like, why was I even stressed earlier? Like, what was going on? No, I feel good. But yeah, I highly recommend Kristine to anybody looking to, dabble in and regulate themselves.
I'm signing up.
Like,
I need help.
yeah, she's amazing.
Oh wow, thanks.
Thanks
Gas
for
me up
coming
at the
on.
top end again. Woo! Yeah.
So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe.
Leave us a review. It means a
We
lot.
love a review.
Leave them a review.
And we hope you have a great, fantastic, happy, sexy Monday.
Oh my god. Bye, guys.